Welcome to another whiteboard session. Today we're going to talk about the 4 levels of value. I'm talking to you down here from South Africa, and we've just finished our peaceful elections. But one of the clarion calls for most politicians, what has made them get elected, what has gotten them into parliament, has been the promise they've been making to the masses that when they get into parliament, the masses' life is going to change. Majority of us as black men, especially as black people, we've been promised that when the new government comes in, we are going to get a free grant. Our lives are going to improve by the government giving us money. But I'm here to tell you that that's a lie, because the truth is, this world, there are principles that cannot be changed by man. We have what we call divine principles. And one of the most common principles that most of us are used to is that for every reaction, there is an action. To be very precise, for every action, there is always an opposite reaction to it. There is always something that has to happen for that to get the outcome that you want. If we are being promised money, if we are being promised that our lives are going to get better, if we are being promised that the grant is going to be increased, if we are being promised that most poor black people that live in the townships will end up in the suburb, if we're being promised that all of a sudden we're going to move from taxis into Uber or driving private cars, it means that we have to have more money. Now that begs a very simple question. Money is a reaction. Money is an outcome, which means there has to be an action first before you can have the money that you want. What is the opposite of money? It's value. You have to add value, and as an outcome, as a result, you get money. What is the value that we are going to give or bring to the marketplace for us to get money? Money doesn't happen in a vacuum. You can't just pray about money and all of a sudden you wake up tomorrow morning and you get money in your pocket. You can't just all of a sudden be seated deep in prayer and all of a sudden you have a bursting bank account. Because the truth of the matter is, for you to be able to get money, money only counts in the marketplace. You have to add value. So I'm going to take you through the 4 levels of value. I call them the 4 M's of value. Where are you at this value chain? And that determines exactly how much money you're going to earn. I call this the 4 M's. Now, if we look at the bottom here, I'll call this the first M, and this is mouth. The first M, and this one here, I call this muscle. We have a country, if you look at the 3 or 5 top richest people in the world, you don't have a black face there. And that's the reality. If you look at the 5 top richest people in the world, you don't have a woman there. The truth is, the world economy is dominated by the white male. Now, I want us to put color aside, and we have to look at what is it that they're doing that puts them at that top. Because the easiest thing, my biggest belief is that the most successful people in the world are thieves. The greatest imitators, the greatest inventors in the world are imitators. Why reinvent the wheel? We have to look at whatever it is that they're doing currently, and we just do it better. But majority of us as black people, majority of us as the masses in this country, in South Africa, which is most of us black people, we operate from here. This is where we add value. Now, the problem of using muscle as leverage for value, you're working between 2 constraints. You're selling your energy and you're selling time. And the problem with these 2 things is they're finite. So here you're operating in time and you're operating with physical energy. There is a limit to how hard I can work. There is a limit to how many hours I can work. And as long as we're working within these 2 constraints, your income is completely limited. So we have politicians and we have people that we're fighting at the bottom here, where majority of people have been taught to give excuses for where we are at this point. It will always be, we'll always point fingers at other people. We'll always point fingers at the government. We'll always point fingers at our neighbor. But irrespective, as long as we're operating here, there is a limited, and this is what we call the minimum wage. There is only a certain number of cooks we can have in this country. There's only a certain number of taxi drivers we can have in this country. There's only a certain number of gardeners we can have in this country. So majority of us as black men in this country, we constantly fighting at this level. We say people from this area, people from this country are taking our jobs. We are fighting at this. And as long as we fight at this level, we will always, our lives will always be in recession. Our economic environment will always be in recession. So muscle becomes one of those that most of us are operating at. The third level here is what I call management. People that are operating at management level make much more money than people that are here at muscle. Because here they are using time, they are using energy, and they are using people. They're managing people. So they are getting slightly much more than people that earn the minimum wage. And this is where majority of us, where the second tier of black people, we operate at. You go to school, you get your degree, and they give you another 10 other guys that work under you, and of course you get another 5 grand, which is more than them. Now, this one here, you're not rich. You pay your bills, but still, the number of days in a month are always still much more than how much you get paid in terms of salary at the end of the month. So management becomes where most of us people are. The third one here, where most of us need to be, is mouth. And under mouth here, we're talking about communication. Your ability to communicate determines how much money that you make. People that are in this group work less than these people, but will make easy 10 times more. And to look at this, I'll give you a very easy example of people that are car salesmen. A car salesman makes much more money than the car mechanic. The car mechanic makes much more money than the guy that works in the car factory plant. But these are the most important people for us to have that car on the road. But because they're selling and working within a very finite, limited resource environment, it has a ceiling on how much money they can make. Communication becomes key. And here you'll find the key things here is words. And words, they say that average human beings has a total of 2,000 words as vocabulary. So what that means is the more words you have, the more bigger your vocabulary is, and the more it is easier for you to be persuasive, because sales is simply about being persuasive in your language. Now here, majority of people here will be salespeople, people in the movie stars, music singers, and all those people, they fit here. And the last one here is mind. And under mind, we're using what we call imagination. The richest people that you see, the top 5 richest people in the world, they have the ability to imagine. They have the ability to think of people like Steve Jobs. Think of people like Mark Zuckerberg. Think of people like Elon Musk. Think of people like Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Think of people like Microsoft, when you talk about Bill Gates. These people have the ability to think, to see a product in their mind that is going to be a solution to millions and millions of people's problems, and then they are able to be articulate enough to communicate. And then these people here are the ones that physically bring that product into manifestation. But these are the ideas. Now, this becomes the God principle. This is how God himself works. And if we as black men, We as black people, if we want to stop being at the bottom of the barrel, if you want to stop being at the bottom of the economic ladder, if you want to stop being the sickest, the poorest, the ones that are infiltrating and filling up jails, we have to look at the value chain, and then we have to ask ourselves, how do we, at what level are we providing value to the world? Because as long as we've become the heroes of water and the donkeys of the world where we are physical, because if you think of most of our rich people, they are people in sports, they are people in entertainment. As much as we look at them and we think they're rich, these people are still working under this. And then a few of our people will work under here as musicians, as top salespeople. But how do we get to this? Now, how do you build your mind to a point where your imagination is? And this brings us to very easy scenario on a day-to-day basis. If you look at most futuristic movies, if you look at movies like, if we look at movies like, I can't even think of a movie now that are more futuristic movies. But if you look at movies where we're talking about imaginations, if we look at movies, you don't see most of black people in those movies. You don't see them. And what that does for most of our children, number one, it shows us that we do not use our power of imagination. All the top futuristic movies are created by white people, and we see white people in them. So when white kids watch those movies, it activates their brain to see the future where they're going. But most of us, the only movie I think where black people we in is the Wakanda movie. And we went bonkers because of that movie. But all it does is, for the first time, that movie reminded us that we have the ability to imagine the kind of future that we want. Future is uncertain. So for us to activate our mind, there are a couple of things that we need to do. The first thing we need to do here is we have to become students for life. We have to become students for life. We constantly have to keep on studying. We should not stop studying only after our academic years, because most of us, we go to school with the sole intention of getting a certificate, get a job, get married, retire, and die. And that's why we have so many black people with a lot of PhDs, a lot of black people with a lot of DDs and Bs and whatever kind of degrees that you can talk about. But most of them, they work for these people that are operating at this level. Anytime you go to an MBA class, it's full of black people, but we don't have black businesses. And that tells you that most of us are going here with the sole intention of not changing our life, but only improving our lifestyle. The second thing here is the company that you keep. You have to be in a company. If you're the cleverest person in the room, then it's time to change rooms, because you're not learning anything. You constantly have to hang out with people that are constantly stimulating your mind and constantly challenging your way of thinking. Most of us, we're so comfortable in a place where we're the tallest tree in the forest. And if you are the tallest tree in the forest, in most cases, what happens? You become the first one to get chopped down. The third thing here, we have to make sure that as black people, we do not understand how your brain is an organ. Your mind lives inside your brain. And my brain as an organ, I have control over it when it comes to exercise, rest, and the foods that I eat. If I don't exercise, if I don't eat right, and I do not rest well, automatically the brain is affected. And if the brain is the vehicle where my mind lives in, then I cannot operate. You can't operate. Your mind cannot be sharp in a broken body. Your mind cannot think straight in a body that is full of pain. So we have to understand that physical wealth, physical health here, health is wealth. And most of us, unfortunately, have neglected this. And this becomes the key thing that we need to do. So let's forget politicians. A politician is not going to get you from here to there. This is something that you can only do by yourself. They can make promises. But remember, a politician is operating at this level. A politician is using words. A politician is using his mouth. A politician's life will always be better than yours. It's not a politician's job to upgrade and uplift your life. It is your responsibility. When you die, God is not going to ask you who took care of your life. He'll ask you, what did you do with the life that you've given? And that brings me to finish this, where we're talking about the parable of the talent. One was given 3 talents, one was given 2, one was given 1, and each was given according to his ability. The one with 1 never invested the money that the boss gave him because he was so busy, afraid. Secondly, he kept on looking at these others have already more than what have been given. But he forgets that the boss gave them according to their ability. We as black men, we've been given according to our ability. We don't have everything, but we have something. We don't have to have everything, but there is something in you that this world needs. You have to make sure that you bring up that talent inside you. God bless. Take care of yourself. If you liked this video, of course, feel free to comment, feel free to share, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do the right thing. God bless and take care of yourself.